Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Caitlin Burke. A deadly crash overnight is being called intentional. Investigators say a driver with a toddler in the car crashed into a group of pedestrians on the crowded Las Vegas Strip. At least one person is dead, 36 others are injured. Authorities say this was not an act of terrorism, but witnesses report the driver did intentionally hit dozens of people.
You could see people just literally bouncing off. She was running over everybody.
The accident took place on the crowded Vegas Strip, near the venue for last night's Miss Universe pageant. Witnesses say the driver hit a group of people and then drove back up on the sidewalk, hitting even more.
Going fast, accelerated through people. Then it turned around some type of truck or something to slow down and then accelerate again into the people. And then I couldn't see what was going on. At that point, it was mayhem, just people down.
Authorities confirmed there was a child in the car. Before the driver could leave the scene, bystanders charged the vehicle, trying to get the child out. A woman was eventually taken into custody. Tests are being done to determine if she was under the influence of drugs or alcohol. The man who bought the weapons used in the San Bernardino shooting is scheduled to appear in court today. Enrique Marquez is making his second court appearance on a terrorism-related charge for conspiring to provide material support to terrorists for abandoned plots in 2011 and 2012. He's also charged with illegally buying the two rifles that Saeed Farouk and his wife used to kill 14 people on December 2nd. Prosecutors are asking for no bail, saying that Marquez is dangerous and a flight risk. Religious colleges and universities are seeking waivers on transgender student accommodations. A report by the Human Rights Campaign says nearly 36 schools have received federal waivers allowing them not to accommodate transgender students in admissions, housing, and other areas of campus life. The schools say giving transgender students access to single-sex restrooms and facilities that correspond with their gender identity would be inconsistent with their religious beliefs. Alliance Defending Freedom says the Department of Education Office for Civil Rights has exceeded its legal authority by taking the position that the federal law that prohibits sex discrimination applies to transgender students. It appears America's foundational freedoms are under attack. A new video shows dozens of students at Yale University signing a petition to actually overturn the First Amendment. CBN News reported recently on a growing number of students at several colleges calling for limits on free speech, but the students at Yale are taking it to a whole new level. Take a look. This video shows filmmaker and satirist Ami Horowitz on the campus of Yale University. He's asking students to sign a petition calling for a repeal of the First Amendment. That amendment upholds the free exercise of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right to peacefully assemble, and the right to petition.
What we're calling for is a petition to repeal the First Amendment.
A Yale spokesman has dismissed the clip, calling it a heavily edited prank video. But Horowitz says he was able to quickly gather more than 50 signatures in less than an hour. He believes most of those who signed were students. Free speech advocates like Ari Khan at FIRE say the video is cause for concern.
I think it is indicative of a broader trend that we've seen on college campuses lately of subserviating free speech to sensibilities and feelings. And I think that's noteworthy in and of itself.
In the last several decades, hundreds of universities have adopted speech codes. These campus policies consistently violate the First Amendment by prohibiting offensive or disrespectful speech. Now, at campuses across the country, First Amendment advocates are seeking to push back on these codes.
Censorship is like a cancer that eventually spreads out of control, and eventually everyone has something to worry about.
The big concern? Students are now the ones calling for restrictions.
The terrifying thing to me is that the current wave of censorship is coming from the students, not from the faculty.
Still, it's a big leap for students to want to overthrow the First Amendment, as the Yale video apparently shows.
I think students often don't consider the practical implications of arguments against free speech. And I think that the video maybe in some way exposes that because, ironically, abolishing the First Amendment would abolish Horowitz's right to circulate such a petition and the students' right to sign such a petition.
Khan says educators need to work with students to explain free speech principles and the reasons for the First Amendment.
I think that we have to show students how free speech protected the civil rights movement, the women's suffrage movement, and any real progressive social cause and progress that we've really made in recent history has all come because of free speech.
Free speech advocates say this video should serve as a wake-up call. Apparently, a new generation doesn't view the First Amendment the way so many Americans have for so long.
Parents at a Kentucky school fought back last week after the school dropped Jesus from their Charlie Brown Christmas play. Johnson County school officials censored the part of the play when Linus quotes the Bible, telling Charlie Brown about the true meaning of Christmas. But the Lexington Herald leader reports that parents in the audience responded by loudly reciting the deleted verse during the play performance. The school had removed the verse after receiving a single complaint. Coming up, exploring the dangers of Islam. We'll break down why it isn't a religion of peace. Is Islam really a religion of peace? President Obama has said it is, as has President Bush, even as violent jihadis carry out terror attacks in the name of Islam. So who's right? As George Thomas reports, it's not just about fears of terrorism. Surveys show hundreds of millions of Muslims hold radical views about dominating the world.
With each new terrorist attack, the debate over the true nature of Islam intensifies.
Let's be clear, though. Islam is not our adversary.
This is a civilizational struggle between the values of freedom and liberty and radical Islamic terror.
Those on the left defend Islam, calling it a religion of peace.
Muslims are peaceful and tolerant people and have nothing whatsoever to do with terrorism.
Those on the right want to stop the flow of Muslims to the U.S., concerned about jihadists sneaking in among masses of refugees.
What happened in Paris could happen here. There is no middle ground.
But experts say there's also a much bigger debate.
When there is a disease or a virus, it can't be treated unless you identify the problem. So we have to call it what it is, and it is violent, radical, extremist Islamism.
For over 20 years, Raheel Raza, a Sunni Muslim, has dedicated her life to speaking out against what she calls the rising threat of radical Islam.
This is not an easy topic to discuss.
In her latest project, By the Numbers, The Untold Story of Muslim Opinions and Demographics, Raza warns that Islam presents a great threat.
In light of the fact that most of the terrorism in the world today involves Muslims in one way or another, and because it directly affects our lives and security, I think that we need to be able to have an open, honest, and fact-based conversation about that.
Produced by the Clarion Project, Raza describes so-called spheres of radicalization. At the core is what she calls violent jihadists like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, and Boko Haram.
These are the jihadists who murder people in San Bernardino, Texas, Paris, London, Delhi, Jerusalem, Ottawa, Madrid, Nairobi.
A second sphere, Raza says, are those who support jihadist goals but not their methods. For example, while they push for an Islamic takeover, they do so through democratic methods.
Islamists want many of the same things as the jihadists, it's just that their tactics differ.
She points to the large percentage of Egyptians who supported the Muslim Brotherhood, or the Palestinians who voted to give political power to the terrorist group Hamas.
So instead of engaging in terror themselves, they use the political and cultural system to further their aims.
The third sphere, and the largest of them all, is what Raza also calls the most disturbing, the fundamentalists.
The Muslims in this circle are certainly not like ISIS, and they're not working to overthrow governments like the Muslim Brotherhood. But they do hold beliefs and practices that no doubt will seem radical to you and me.
She points to an exhaustive Pew Research project in 2013 that interviewed thousands of Muslims across 39 countries. In the survey, large numbers of Muslims, representing millions of people, thought it was justifiable to execute people who converted away from Islam and to murder women who dishonor the family.
These studies paint a picture of an Islamic world that is increasingly out of step with the modern world.
In the same survey, alarming numbers of young Muslims in Western countries also supported suicide bombings.
42% of French Muslims, 35% of British Muslims, and 26% of American Muslims believe suicide bombings against non-Muslims can be justified.
And equally shocking, Raza adds, is the large percentage of Muslims who want Sharia law, which calls for stoning of adulterers and chopping off thieves' hands, to be the law of the land.
Of course, not every Muslim believes in these things, but hundreds of millions do. The numbers are right here for all to see.
Raza says if radical Islam is ever to be defeated, an honest conversation must happen about one of the most important issues of our time.
By silencing the debate about radical Islamist beliefs, we abandon our own core beliefs of truth, free speech, and tolerance. And we abandon human rights in favor of political correctness.
Raza says the documentary is meant to start that conversation. George Thomas, CBN News.
Up next, go inside a unique program that's helping at-risk kids and bringing Jews and Arabs together. We often talk about the problems facing Israel from outside its borders. But like any society, Israel also faces a variety of domestic issues, from homelessness to taking care of the elderly. One group is taking a creative approach to solving Israel's social problems. And here's Chris Mitchell with their story.
Meet 23-year-old Eti Pengazov. Confident, beautiful, talented. She also won the Israeli president's prestigious award for excellence as course commander in the IDF. But she wasn't always so happy. Her father was a drug addict and her parents divorced.
At the age of 15 and a half in my adolescence, I was a bit, actually very rebellious girl. So I got to the point that by 15 and a half, I left my house and went to live with my boyfriend.
Eti described herself as impatient, impulsive, hard, a different person, until a social worker brought her to Susan's house.
Simply, it gave me tools for life, and it gave me a new life.
Susan's house takes youth at risk who have been abused, gives them a job, teaches them art, and prepares them for the future.
And what we are trying to do here is to teach them that they can, that it's not their fault, to give them the skills to stand on their own 2 feet, not in the streets, but where we want them to be, in universities, in national service, and places like that.
Avital Goel is co-founder and director of Susan's House.
We have many things to do, because the idea is when a kid is coming from the streets, we don't know what he's good at. And we want him to succeed in something.
The youth make top quality glassware, jewelry, and pottery that's sold in their shop and learn life lessons along the way.
A lot of the skills that we get from home, from say, for example, from our parents, these kids did not get. And this is what we can teach them through work, because it's not talking about things, it's doing it. I'll give you money as a salary, so then I can talk with you about how to spend your money wisely.
All of this with the help of Myers JDC, Brookdale Institute, and JDC Israel. JDC's critical involvement helped them develop and implement this life-changing program. Another program JDC assists is a unique dance program called Minds in Motion. The Richmond Ballet program teamed up to bring Jewish and Arab children together to teach tolerance and instill self-confidence in the children. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Charlene Aaron recently spoke with Professor Jack Habib, who's the director of the Myers JDC Brookdale Institute. Take a look.
The JDC stands for the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee, which is the overseas arm of the Jewish communities in America. And they work throughout the world with Jewish communities, as well as with non-sectarian challenges and humanitarian needs. In Israel, we are a force to help Israel address better its social challenges, many complex social challenges, and helping to promote innovation and change, because all over the world, it's not enough to do more. We have to do much better if jointly throughout the world, we're going to face these complex challenges.
Amazing. Well, one of the things we saw at the end of that video piece was video of kids dancing in the Minds in Motion project. What's Minds in Motion all about?
The Minds in Motion is actually a program of the Richmond Ballet, and which was developed to promote the personal and social development of children through dance, as well as to promote relationships among groups, bring together different groups from different backgrounds, and through dance, get across those barriers and bring them together and create much more tolerance and mutual respect and relationship.
And something that music and dance can certainly do is bring people together. Right, that's a wonderful idea. What are some of the biggest social issues that Israel's facing? You mentioned a few, but what are some of the biggest ones?
I would say, first of all, the issue of children and youth at risk. And this is a worldwide problem. The world is becoming much more complicated for children, as we all know as parents. Yes. And so the effort to make sure that children can grow up normatively, the effort in a world where families are breaking up and families are breaking down, and the strength of families, so we can continue to reinforce those families to provide the appropriate kind of family background and support that they need. And this is, I would say, one of our major challenges. As well, very important in the context of Israel, even more important today, is the fact that we have a very large Arab minority in Israel, almost 20%. Most of them are Islamic. There's also a smaller Christian minority, and they represent a very important part of our society. And the ongoing development to promote relationships and to promote the equality of opportunity is another major issue for us.
Now, have Israelis always faced these kinds of issues, poverty, hunger, or is this a relatively new development?
Well, the worst and most difficult period was the first decade of the state. The state was established in 1948. In that decade, there was at the time a Jewish population in 1948 of about 600,000 Jews. Within 10 years, that population had doubled. Can you imagine if the U.S. population went to double in the next 10 years?
That's amazing.
But beyond that, they doubled with penniless refugees, those who came from the Holocaust. Yes. That was half of them. The other half were the Jews that fled from all the Middle Eastern countries after the establishment of the state. Wow. And so the degree of the challenge, and all of this happening in a context of a country that is just being established. It didn't have the institutions with the experience and the knowledge to deal with these issues, and it didn't have the funding. In fact, for many, many years, most of these refugees lived in refugee camps within Israel. And beyond that, it's only in 1958, about 10 years later, that we established compulsory elementary school education because there weren't enough teachers in classes. So this was definitely the most difficult and challenging period.
Amazing. You are doing a great work, and we thank you so much, Professor Habib, for being with us today. God bless you.
Okay. Thank you.
We definitely don't often think about the social issues going on in Israel, but as they said, they are, and there's some great work being done there. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Christmas is a busy time of year, especially for scammers. The hustle and bustle can give them even more opportunities to take advantage of people. That's why the Better Business Bureau introduced a scam tracker to expose popular scams and keep you from becoming the next victim. Be careful about lookalike websites when doing Christmas shopping. They may steal your money or send fake products. Also, watch out for fake shipping emails. They can have links that download malware to your computer. There's also a new gift card scam that prompts you to use a gift card to get a special deal. And the Better Business Bureau reports a phone scam is big as well. Fake tech support, fake sweepstakes offering a prize for a small fee, and the IRS scam, when the caller tells you you're in trouble with the IRS unless you pay up now.
That I'll be going to jail and agents would be coming to handcuff me and take me away. Felt very bad, very bad.
We'll have a link for the scam tracker showing the latest scam alerts at cbnnews.com. Finally, today, Operation Blessing is providing relief to refugees in Greece. Hundreds of refugees from the Middle East continue arriving on the shores of Lesbos every day. Operation Blessing is on the ground providing much-needed kitchen equipment and food supplies, including a new industrial stove and cooking tools, so teams of international volunteers can feed hungry families as they arrive. Operation Blessing is currently serving 300 meals every day with ingredients purchased locally. You can find out more about Operation Blessing by going to their website at ob.org. That's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. You can find out more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care about most at cbnnews.com. And tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here. We hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.